So I understand that you found out about this conference on your own and actually sought out the organization.
It's called inviting yourself.
They told me I wasn't allowed to make that joke, but that's great.
It's no joke. I heard about you. Elise Bean, I don't know if she's here, my former staff director on permanent subcommittee, and she here, was that her? She told me about it. Sounded just absolutely what is needed in this country and in our community, and so I said, hey, I'd like to drop by and add my voice.
Well, it is a huge honor.
It's a retired voice, it's a has-been voice, but it's all yours.
All right. So what does it mean to you to see this kind of a national convening of progressive Jewish activists?
Very reassuring, very exciting, very inspiring. It's kind of a, for me, it's a real coming back of a Jewish progressive spirit that is there. Been, I won't say dormant, it's never dormant, but it's kind of been a sleeping giant for a while. And our sense and our DNA, the search for justice, the pursuit of justice is, I think, always there since we've been a people, and always will be there, but sometimes it's kind of too far beneath the surface. And when I read about what you're doing here at Bend the Arc, it seemed to me that it's, wow, what power is there. So I want to congratulate the Bend the Arc folks on the first meeting like this. It's really exciting, and I'm proud to be part of it.
So the saying goes, as goes Detroit, so goes the nation, right?
I never heard it before.
You never know? Come on, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it makes sense to you, right?
I used to be a local official in Detroit, so anything you can say positive about Detroit. And by the way, Detroit, in a big, big way, is really on its way back, folks. That's the truth.
Well, you kind of beat me to my question, which was, is there...
That's how I get elected. I beat people to their questions.
So you are very passionately committed to the city of Detroit. And I was wondering if there's one thing that you want everyone in this room to know about the city of Detroit.
It's had a long, tough ride. My wife and I have lived in the city. We were raised and educated in the city, lived there all of our lives. And again, I was a local official there before I was elected to the Senate 38 years ago or so, but 8 years on the city council. But now, in the last 3-4 years, it's an extraordinary story, and it's spreading around the country, and it's mainly because of young people. It's all about young people getting over a lot of hang-ups, including some racial hang-ups, gender hang-ups that us older folks were bedeviled with. And so young people moving into the city, there's a huge demand for condos, a great social scene, a music scene, young people that just want to be together and they don't give a hoot about other folks, gender, race, you name it. And it's really exciting, truly exciting. I wasn't sure I'd live to see it. I've always fought for my city in the Senate, fought for my hometown. I was an attorney for the Civil Rights Commission, so I've been involved in the civil rights movement for many years before I ran for local government. So I've always been a person who's advocated for my town, but we were, as we lawyers say, at times gilding the lily. We were kind of exaggerating. We were kind of putting in words in our mouth which represented more hopes than reality. But right now, it's reality, and it's a big thing. And a lot of young people who left the city are actually moving back, including from California, by the way.
Brooklyn. It's a big thing in Brooklyn. Okay, great. So in your time in office, your policy positions generally favored keeping religion out of the public policy sphere, but the values and the ethical bedrock that clearly drive your work seem pretty Jewish to me. So how did your...
Everything seems Jewish to you. What do you mean?
Okay. How did your Jewish identity come into play when you held office?
Well, my brother Sandy, man, again, my older brother, member of Congress still. He was my mentor, my older brother. Our parents were our mentors, active, very active in the community. My dad was on the Corrections Commission, which is the citizens group that was supposed to oversee the operation of our prisons. He cared about prisoners. He cared about farm workers. He used to go out into the fields doing his best to try to get decent sanitary conditions for farm workers. This is 60 years ago, 70 years ago, or more. They brought in a lot of immigrants when he became a lawyer. He and his brother, Ted Levin, a federal judge. Before he was a judge, they were practicing law together, and their greatest joy was being able to bring in immigrants. And when I hear this unbelievable mouth that we hear almost every day talking the anti-immigration line, I think that every Jew and everybody who's a child or grandchild of immigrants, regardless of religion, and that's most of us, ought to rise up in anger against Donald Trump for his bashing of immigrants.
So unfortunately, we're out of time. So I'm just going to...
You say I'm not out of time. What do you mean?
So people can catch you at the bar later. And well, so I was just going to say thank you so much. And that for the last question, I'll just ask what you're planning to sing at karaoke later.
My Yiddish is not as good as yours here, by the way. So, one other thing I want to just end with is one thought about Jewish values, and you asked me about that. What we gave the world was one God, which really means that we're all brothers and sisters. That's the definition now. And that has a huge impact. But another thing is that we question God. At least some of us, many of us Jews do. Not all Jews, but many Jews.
Good Jews.
No. I'm still politically astute to agree with that. But many Jews question God, right? We look up and we say, how can you let this happen? Things like that. The point of that, though, is, and this is another gift in addition to finding and believing in one God, making us brothers and sisters, is that the status quo is not ordained by God. There are some folks that think the status quo is something that is God-given, and most of us Jews know it isn't, and we want to change the status quo. And that's what Bend the Arc is all about, is changing the status quo, pursuing justice. And that's a Jewish value which is embedded in, I think, most of us. It's kind of in our DNA, and I see the coming back of those values, and it's very, very heartwarming. So I'm just delighted to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.